Welcome everybody to our second day of student government candidate debates for the 26-27 school year. My name is Ariel Hall. I'm the student body president this school year, and I will be moderating this debate of cabinet and class councils with our freshman class secretary, Olivia, who will be timekeeping. So the way it works is that we're going to have the presidents and vice presidents go up for each branch, and then we'll go to the next. And we're going to start with our cabinet executives or student body executives. So if I could have the four of you up here. So for our presidential candidates, we have Ariel Segura and Dimitry Kim. And for our vice presidential, we have Sophia Kim and Chen. So as I already explained to you all, you're going to have about 9 minutes per position to answer questions. You're going to stay up to answer 2 after the first question so that we alternate who hears the question first and whatnot. Olivia is timekeeping, so you're going to have a 30-second time, 10 seconds, and then if you go over, there'll be a bell. The very first thing I ask you to introduce yourself a little bit before you answer. The very last thing I ask you will be a question and also give your closing statement as well. So those will be combined. Does anyone have any questions before we go? Okay, great. So first we're going to start with Ariel.
So I just introduce myself?
I'm going to ask you a question and you introduce yourself. So I want you to say, how have you demonstrated your commitment to this school, and also introduce yourself a little bit.
Great. Hi, my name is Ariel Segura. I've had the pleasure of serving as your student body vice president in this past school year. I think to respond to your question, since my freshman year, I've had the opportunity to be involved in Brooklyn Tech's extracurricular community, but especially the student government environment. I've had the honor to plan events, but as well advocate for changes that have been very necessary amongst our student population. We think that, as we have progressed throughout our school environment, we've had the opportunity to learn more about the issues that make it a little harder for us to interact within our school environment. And I think I've had the pleasure as a student leadership member, as the student body vice president, as a member of various extracurriculars, to advocate for the changes necessary.
Great, thank you. You pass the mic to Ben. Same thing, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're running for, and how have you demonstrated your commitment to this building?
My name is Benjamin Kim, and I'm a junior that's in the biological science major. And I've demonstrated my interest here by sort of branching out even past this school. I STEM outside the school in the hopes that I could bring my experiences back in. So for instance, I ran parades outside of Brooklyn Tech in the hopes that I can gather more interest about the school. And additionally, I've joined lots of clubs, and throughout my entire experience here, I do, in fact, believe that the students here should be represented more. And throughout my time here at Tech, I do think that, especially with students that find themselves being silent or they can't find the voice within themselves, I can be here to reach out to them and help them find the fire within them.
Great. Just for both of you, hold the mic really, really close so that we can hear you. We're going to ask you another thing. So, what is one goal or event you would like to see occur at Brooklyn Tech during your presidency, and how would you implement this?
Okay, I really like this question.
Hold the mic close.
Hold closer. Okay. So, one of the main issues with Brooklyn Tech that I think is very apparent is our monetary issue, which is financially. There's 6,000 students here, and I really think that to support all of them, we need the money to buy all the necessary materials and supplies for their personalized interests. And one of these ways that I want to emphasize this is by the Brooklyn Technical High School Battle of the Bands. I've talked about this issue before on my Instagram, and I'm of course also a leader for my church ministry's band as well. I lead the praise every day. I play guitar and I lead by singing as well. And beforehand, I've played drums for 7 years from the ministry as well. There's lots of seats in the auditorium, and I feel like if we hand out tickets for $7 and then we could give a discount for maybe $5, we'll be able to fill up seats so we can raise more information about our school and demonstrate our pride and interest in our arts as well.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to ask Ariel the same thing. What is one goal or event you would like to see occur at Brooklyn Tech during your presidency, and how would you implement this?
I think that before answering that question, like just to put into perspective, student government has obviously a limited amount of power. We have what I think is different from the average student is an increased amount of influence amongst administrators, amongst teachers, amongst the possible changes that we can have other people occur. A part of my campaign, I have 4 branches: transparency, spirit, advocacy, and pre-check. But I think the most important one out of those is to advocate. I think that the student body has a ton that goes ignored, whether it's the mess that you can find in the boys or girls bathroom past 6th period, or whether it's the additional, increase of racial equity within our building. There is a lot that can be done, and I hope that using my influence as student body president, I can continue the efforts that have already been done to advocate for students on various issues.
Great, thank you. So the next thing we're going to ask you is, what was the most difficult decision you've ever had to make in a leadership role, and how did you arrive at that decision?
Right, I think that one of the most, I think probably for everyone, a difficult thing is to let something go, to let an initiative, to let an event, to let an idea go. And I've found that, throughout my experience this past year as student body vice president, that there obviously were goals that I desired, but weren't able to accomplish. I think the first one that my mind comes to is the establishment of a press secretary role within the student body council. We don't have a person that's primarily made for Instagram, for the outreach that occurs as compared to other councils. I personally still think that would be a beneficial thing to have. However, in my efforts to add this position to the student body council, I wasn't able to. And I think that whilst it is unfortunate to not be able to get the solution that you desire, there are always other ways to go around and to reach the goals that you have.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Ben. What was the most difficult decision you've ever had to make in a leadership role? How did you arrive there, and what was the result?
Definitely the most hardest part about starting a leadership role is eventually coming from nothing. So in my youth ministry, we don't have much influence around Queens, which is where I'm from. And for our ministry, there's lots of other churches appearing around our community, and it's very hard to implement more youth people into our church. And then because of that, I was left by myself with everyone else graduated. I started from nothing. I had to build my band by myself with all these new people that didn't know how to play the right notes. They didn't know how to play properly. They weren't accustomed to our normal tradition. Well, I've been in it for around 7 years. Now from that, I want to emphasize that being a leader doesn't mean bossing people around. It doesn't mean to fit them into the frame that you standardize for yourself, but it means to be transparent, and just more than that, it means to be authentic. And most importantly, when it's really hard to be a leader when you're trying to control things around you. And what I've learned from that.
Great, thank you. The next thing we're going to ask you, how well do you know our COSA team and administrators? If you do not know them well, how do you plan on making stronger connections with them?
Okay, obviously I'm very new to this type of government position. This is a new experience and I plan on exploring it very well. And one of my first acts as SGO president would obviously be to gather all of us around, to have more opportunities for us to just know each other more. And as valuable as it is to have us serve the students, I believe we should also serve ourselves. We have to know each other's names, we have to know our interests, our beliefs, and without us communicating with each other, having some sort of family by ourselves, I don't think you can really get much done with anyone else.
Next, we're going to ask Ariel the same thing. How well do you know our COSA team and administrators? If you do not know them well, how do you plan to make stronger connections?
I think something that I am very proud of is the fact that I made the jump from just being a member of student leadership to being student body vice president. And I think a big part of that allowed that to occur was my relationship with the COSA team and administrators. Throughout my freshman and sophomore year, even as a leadership member, I made my presence very clear within the COSA office. I made sure to interact with all the COSAs to build a relationship. And I think something that I think about frequently is the fact that in my sophomore year, I wasn't an executive, but every single COSA still knew my name and still saw me every day during my 8th period lunch. I think I have a pretty strong relationship with the COSAs. I've had pretty difficult conversations. I've had even like many debates with them regarding different ideas, and I think that I have a pretty strong relationship that'll be to my benefit if I'm elected as the vice president.
Great. You are stuck in an elevator with no faculty members or cell phone service.
Oh,
3 students you do not know are all having panic attacks simultaneously.
fun.
So how do you address this? What's your plan? And at the end, connect this to who you are as a person and your closing message about why we should vote for you. This is your final question.
Great. Well, obviously 3 students having a panic attack in an elevator isn't a great thing. I think that the first thing I have to do is make sure I'm okay, you know, put your mask on first. I think I would also be a little nervous if I was in an elevator stuck with 3 students I've never met before and no cellular service. But I think after that, the next step would be to try to relax the other student. That obviously depends on the student. I can't give you a clear answer as to how that would work, but whether that is a breathing technique or distracting them, you know, I do have to appeal to every student, change to every student, and I think that narrative is very similar to how I would want to operate as student body president. I can't just focus on one issue and say, hey, this is how I'm going to attack everything. I have to focus on everything, and most importantly, I have to work off of what already exists. And I think that serving as student body president, I would be able to use my background to my advantage.
Great. Ben, you are stuck in an elevator with no faculty members or cell phone service. 3 students you do not know are all having panic attacks simultaneously. What do you do and connect this to why people should vote for you?
Okay, the first thing I would consider is how big is this elevator? Because I think, first of all, everyone just needs to sit down and just relax. And also, I've been stuck in an elevator before, and these 3 other people sort of represent my brothers. All 3 of them were having panic attacks, and one of them actually hurt their leg on the elevator. We were stuck on the 4th floor. And also, being stuck is a reason for you to find your passion and to just alert others about yourself. And maybe you guys could become a team and maybe build something beautiful together.
I love that answer so much. Okay, thank you guys so much, our presidential candidates. Now you're going to pass the microphone to Sophia, who's running for student body vice president. So, you're going to introduce yourself, and you're going to answer, what is one reason that somebody should not vote for you? Continue.
Okay, so hi, my name is Sophia Kim. I've had the honor of serving as class president for the past 2 years. Just going straight to the question, what reason someone should not vote for me? I wouldn't say I necessarily have a clear answer on that, but I can share my biggest weakness. I would say my biggest weakness is when it comes to maybe like a big event, I put too much workload on myself, because I feel like, I have confidence in the work that I do, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like, for example, in Culture Fair, sometimes I would put too much work on myself that would create some overload, which I enjoy doing work. However, I think it's also so important to divide that work with the team that you're working with, especially because that helps a lot with transparency and being on the same page. I think it's important that someone should not be doing all the work. I think that it should be divided evenly so that everyone is doing their share, and then also so that it's just faster and more efficient if more people are doing different tasks and sharing their different opinions.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Justin. Say who you are a bit, and what is the reason someone should not vote for you?
My name is Justin Chen, and I'm running for SGO VP. And one reason somebody should not vote for me is if they believe that change is not possible. Because a lot of people today believe that change is impossible because they're stuck in a society where change is viewed as something that should not happen, and leaders are there just as position roles and not as problem solvers and advocate for the people that they represent. So if I were to get elected as student body vice president, I would try to change this quota because I want to make change in this school and try to help everybody that I represent. So I believe that if a student does not feel that feel that change is impossible, and they feel that they do not want change, then that might be a reason that they should not vote for me. But I believe that most people, if not all people in this school, needs change, and that is why the student government is here. Thank you.
Great. The next thing we're going to ask you is, what have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or the organization that you're in to handle?
So, as many of you might be aware, I'm a part of many organizations, including DECA, NYC, SGO, SLT, and all these positions has responsibilities that takes up many middays of my week. And some weeks I had multiple days lined up and had multiple events that coincide during the same day. And with that, it could be a stressful time for me. However, I learned to just take a step back and just ask the people around me on what they think I should do. And I believe that I'm a team player, so I try to ask people what they need help with. I ask them how I can be more of use to them, so I know exactly what I can do when I'm not there for them. And so I can catch up to whatever task that I need to be doing, but also I can be managing my responsibilities effectively.
Great. Same thing to Sophia.
Wait, can I just ask you to repeat that so I know exactly?
Yes, it's what have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or the organization to handle?
Okay, so I'll just use an example from this year. I'm on the varsity girls soccer team and also on SGO, which are two high commitment activities. I think that it's really important to rely on the community around you. I think, well, in addition to my previous response, I think it's really important to ask for help around you and to also be someone that that people can rely on. It's like mutual trust, and I think I've demonstrated that through student government and varsity soccer through communication, and that's something that I want to bring more as student government vice president. I think communication is the best thing to build relationships. I think I would do that through more transparency between this SGO and student body, for example, by holding maybe like virtual meetings where people can come meet us, ask us questions, holding Instagram lives, or also just being more public about the work that we do, especially maybe on our SGO website, or just in our Instagram in general.
Great. So you're running to be vice president, meaning that you'll be leading with somebody as president who you might not always agree with. So give a specific example of a policy you conformed to that you did not agree with, and why did you not agree with it?
Wait, can you repeat that? Yeah.
Give a specific example of a policy you conformed to that you did not agree with, and why?
A policy that I don't agree with, we can use our CTC, what they did this year, closing applications for new clubs. It's not really necessarily that I had power over like agreeing or disagreeing, but I do think that we shouldn't have to close opportunities for others. I understand that we have to take control at some point, but I do think that no matter what, we should be giving opportunities to all students to work on themselves and for the communities around.
Great. Same thing to you. Give a specific example of a policy you conformed to that you did not agree with, and why.
So, since we are all leaders here, but there are times where your leadership might not be recognizing that you just have to conform to whatever the rule is. One example of this was during DECA, where since I'm assistant finance captain in DECA, there was one time where I was trying to teach the kids on the concepts of accounting, for example. However, the finance captain decided to teach the kids about more regarding economics, and I believe that time it was more appropriate to teach the kids about accounting because it was more closer to our competition date, and so I believe they needed to focus on what their event was mostly about. However, because the finance captain is of course my senior, that means that I should follow their rules. Of course, this does not mean that you should give down and you should just follow whatever is told to you, but you should recognize that sometimes your leadership may not be apparent.
Great. The next thing we're going to ask you, what problems facing the student body are you most motivated about addressing?
One problem I'm motivated about addressing when I get elected is to address the problem of students not being able to ask help from each other. Every single one of you here today is a student, and every single one of you here needs help. Whether you like it or not, everybody here needs teamwork, and some people here are afraid to ask for help. I believe that students should be able to ask for help from each other, and they should try to learn from each other on how to improve, how to solve some issues, whether it be in class, whether it be in leadership, any type of situation. People should learn how to ask for help. And one way I would try to implement this is through workshops or a conference that could teach students on how to learn from each other, how to interact with each other, and one event that I will try to hold is the Maa'saii Leadership Conference, which has been discussed previously in the SGO by Sophia and the rest of the SGO.
Great. I think we haven't asked Sophia this question yet, have we? Oh, right. Yes. So the question is, what problems facing the student body are you most motivated about addressing?
The problem that I'm most motivated to work against is the lack of community within our school. This is a problem that has been addressed many times by the student government. Again, like all of you know, we have 6,000 students in our school, and we have many individual communities within our school. I think it's really important that we work with these small communities and big communities, especially because the SGO has the platform to voice these communities. I would do this by, one, highlighting more clubs or unions or organizations on our Instagram, or working with sports teams like PSAL. I feel like student athletes aren't really recognized as much. I also want to improve transparency between the student body and the SGO through more feedback forms. And I also think that feedback is useless unless there's initiative being taken. So I think that it's really important that we do implement a public Google sheet showing the initiatives that we take based off those responses, because again, we should be responding to the actual students bringing up issues.
Great. The last thing we're going to do is ask you to say in 30 seconds or less your closing words and why people should vote for you.
Hi, my name is Sophia Kim. I'm running to be your SGO Vice President. There are 4 main things that I want to work on. 1 would be community, like I mentioned before. 2 would be more opportunities for leadership development, so that would be my New York City Leadership Conference. 3 would be resources, having an online resource hub for students. And then the last one would be having more opportunities for students and being more open about that.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Justin, 30 seconds or less. Why people will vote for you, closing statement.
So I have some of the policies that I'm trying to run, that I am holding, is to try to get more internship opportunities, try to get more advocacy among students, and also try to connect the student government more towards the student body, because I believe that we as leaders are not so much different from the people who we represent, and we are here today because the students have given us opportunity to help them. And so my name is Justin Chen, and I'm running to be the student body vice president.
Great, thank you all so much. So Ariel, Ben, Sophia, and Justin, they're running for student body. So we have with us Durdona and Grace running for president, and we have Aimee and Piu running for vice president. We're going to start with Grace. So tell us who you are, and give us an example of a time when your values or beliefs impacted your relationship with your peers.
Hello, my name is Grace, and I'm running to be your senior class president. So, how my values and beliefs impacted my peers, I think, can really be exemplified through all of our junior council meetings or any meeting I'm a part of, even during my sophomore years as well, because I'm someone who's very humorous and I like to take things very lightly. I like to be laid back, and I like to also present this in my meetings, whether it be last year or this year. And I think this has really allowed everyone to really relax and kind of just create a really good setting, which is something that I really strive to do within not only my own community, but also the school community.
Great, thank you. Now to Durdona. Say who you are a little bit, and give us an example of a time when your values or beliefs impacted your relationship with your peers.
Hi everyone, my name is Durdona Melisova, and I'm running to be your senior class president. A time where one of my values was shown throughout my peers is my ability to become very culturally recognized, and also ability to uplift other people's voices in a way that comes from ambition in the first place. And so I think the way that this was kind of shown throughout my peers is one time in culture fair last year where a student came up to me and really wanted to present and play his violin for the audience. And I think a really big part of that was because of how he represented his own culture, but also the way that it represented part of his life and the way that uplifted his own grandfather's voice. And for that reason, I think by allowing him to play and allowing for other people to recognize his own culture, it shows my values and my ability to continue not only being ambitious, but also recognize and uplift other people's voices.
Great. So, a lot of approval is needed through our school's admin and COSAs. So, how will you plan to work with the respective APs, COSAs, and Mr. Newman to work on your goals and your agenda?
Yeah, so I think over the last 3 years that I've been in the school, I've already built a really close relationship, not only with my peers, but also that ranges from my APs to the COSAs and also Newman himself. I could go into his office and ask him for snacks and he'd totally give me one. And I think this also serves as a way to show that when you put yourself out there and recognize who you are as a person to faculty, but also have and allow yourself to make your voice heard in the first place, it allows for other things to be passed. For example, being on SLT allows me for easier communication with every single AP, but also the PA system and also our alumni foundation, and including Newman himself. And I think through building those connections over time for the last 3 years, it allows me to pass good and effective laws that are just backed up and supported not only by the COSAs, but also other administration. And I think I've used this to my advantage to recognize how students' voices can be uplifted. Yeah.
Same thing to Grace. A lot of approval is needed through our school's admin and COSAs. How will you plan to work with the respective APs, Mr. Newman, and the COSAs to get your goals and agenda?
Okay, so similarly to Durdona, I've also been on student leadership for the past 3 years, and I've also been in council for 2 years, so I also have built a relationship with the APs and the other COSAs. Another thing is that we as student leaders get the privilege to kind of sit in the COSA office during our lunch periods or during our free periods, and this is something that I've been doing this past year, and it has allowed me to kind of like build a closer relationship with some of our COSAs and kind of get their approvals on things. If I just need something, I can just like go straight up to their office. For example, recently with campaigning, right, you also need to get all of your material approved by the COSAs before you put it out. And if I don't get a message back or through email, etc., I can get easy access just by going to Ms. Matt's office or going to Mr. V's office. If I have a question with an event, for example, Great Adventure, I can just hop by Ms. Bynum's office and just ask questions.
Great. If you were something other than a human being, what would you be and why?
I think this is a hard question. Can I get an animal?
Yeah,
Okay. I think I would be a bird because they can fly however they want, and I think something that I really like about myself is that I'm a very spontaneous person that just likes to do whatever they want when they need to, but also at the same time they fulfill their duties. So birds, right? Like they can fly however they want. Okay, and they can also like eat whatever they want. Think about it, okay? But at the same time, like they fulfill their duties to society. I'm not really sure what the duties are, but I see birds and they, yeah.
Beautiful. Same as Durdona. If you were to be something other than a human being, what would you be and why?
Okay, so hear me out. I do think that aliens do exist, so I would be an alien. I think the way that we view aliens currently is we look up to them and think of them as like a person, or not a person, an alien, that could have a more, like, look out into the world and the way that they see it is different compared to the way that humans do. And I think that's a really good way that I think, like, if I put myself out there and become an alien or am an alien, I'm able to see the world in a new perspective. And I also think they have, like, this world view that we often don't have, so they're able to see the earth in, like, a different manner than the way that we are. And I think that's really important, especially when it comes to leadership or other skills, is being able to adapt, but also look at new perspectives.
Great. So you guys are both running for senior president. Senior year has a lot of the same events and similar things that have to get done. But if you were elected, what changes would you like to implement to the current way of doing senior year things?
Yeah, so I think currently the way that we view senior year is like on senior cruise, senior prom, and everything else that involves like senior events. But I also think that what this comes to is a lot of college applications and guiding people becomes on the back burner rather on the forefront. And so that's like a big issue that I want to address during my senior year, is the way that we can implement student voices and students' needs in the first place. And I think a really good part of this includes helping them with college guidance and the way that they view college as not only this environment that's like going to determine their future, but also a way that's supported by them through SGO and what we can provide for them through being in contact with other APs and administration like the college office. And I think that's a really important thing that I want to implement during my senior year. And I also think that it allows for stress to be alleviated, which allows people to also go to our events.
Great. Same thing to Grace. What things would you like to implement in the current way of senior year?
I want to redeem myself from the last one, sorry. So basically, of course, I talk about this in my campaign too. In senior year, there's a huge difference between like obligations and initiatives. So obligations includes like our current events like senior cruise, senior trip, like whatever we have already. And I think one thing our school really lacks is student representation. And I think one change I really want to bring to our school community is more representation through either reels or like other videos and stuff. Because I know like myself and I like, obviously a lot of people like to scroll on TikTok, right? And so with myself and a lot of my friends, they scroll on TikTok, they see a bunch of these senior videos, and we're like, wow, I wish my school did this. And these are such good videos to kind of reminisce on, and I really want for our school to also have the ability to do that, so teach students when they graduate, because they look back and say, oh, I was part of this school because I was in this video. And this can also be implemented through monthly interviews that we would have students when we go up to students.
Great. So this is going to be your final question because it's kind of lengthy. We'll give you a full minute, not 30 seconds, so you're going to incorporate your ending message as well. Senior year is a really big undertaking. So what problems or challenges do you foresee in the coming year? How are you going to overcome them? And how does that come into why people should vote for you?
By problems, you mean like within the school or myself?
Within your job as running senior council and what that entails.
So I think some problems definitely will be, because I understand that there are a lot of tasks that we have to do, and also I am a student myself, so I definitely will have college applications and etc. maybe internships I will apply to. But that's why we've already started working on countering these problems this year. For instance, I've already made a calendar full of our next year's senior events. I've already sorted the possible dates by colors. I've organized everything. Like basically, I've already pre-planned a lot for our next year's senior year, so it will alleviate a lot of the stress for next year for not only myself, but also for the future planners, which is our next year's ISL class. And this is also why you should vote for me, because I'm super organized when it comes to these things, and I make sure that things get done, and I have clear goals that I want to implement, and I have clear plans.
Great, thank you. Durdona, same thing. What challenges do you foresee? How will you overcome them, and why do people vote for you?
Yeah, so I think I see two overcoming challenges though, which are really big. One focuses more on the student population, and the other one focuses a lot on administration. I think with senior year, it involves a lot of communication with administration in the first place, and what I foresee is that there's going to be almost like this lack of communication that we have with our administration. But I also think something that part of my policy is improving administration, the quality of the way that we address administration and the way that we have to have transparency within that. And then the second problem that I oversee that's going to occur is with students, and specifically student leaders not specifically doing their job. But I think this also is counteracted by helping people be held accountable, but also understanding that the resources created through the goals that I want to implement, for example, the college guidance and also the feedback program, also allows for their voices to be heard and also provides them guidance. So it provides a clear way, and I think those are the reasons, most of the reasons why you should vote Durdona for senior class president. Thank you.
Great, thank you both so much. Now we're going to pivot to the vice presidents. We're going to start with Piu. So you're going to say who you are a little bit, and then you're also going to say what responsibilities does the VP have, and why are you not running for president?
Running to be your senior vice president, and some responsibilities that vice president holds is helping the president coordinate what they want to do, implement their goals, implement their initiatives. Why I'm not running for president is because I feel like I have a lot on my plate, and I feel commitment is a big thing. So president, obviously, you need to spend more time, but as vice president, I'm able to obligate my time within the student body, but I'm also able to obligate my time outside for like NHS or volunteering outside of school. So I'm able to balance my time out within both sectors.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Aimee. So tell us a bit about yourself. What responsibilities does the VP have, and why are you not running for president?
Hi, my name is Aimee. I'm running to be your senior vice president. Some responsibilities that the vice president has is supporting not just the president, but also the rest of the council in that manner. Because I see the vice president as mainly a support role, where if the council or the president gets overloaded with too many tasks, they're there to support them and uplift them and make sure that they don't take on that burden by themselves. And I'm not running for president because from my experience with SGO, I've been vice president sophomore year and I'm vice president junior year as well. I really like the work that I do. I like that I have the ability to be so versatile in helping others because I've been parliamentarian my freshman year before, so in that way I'm able to support communications if needed. So I just really liked how free I can be while also implementing my own voice and being heard in the council to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible.
Great, thank you. Your next thing will be, how do you plan on building community and pride within the class of 2027?
Well, one issue that I see right now is the lack of connection from the student body with SGO, and I think one way we can combat that is by being more involved with the student body, whether that's creating more reels involving not just the people in our leadership class, but also things like student athletes, clubs, any students involved in other extracurriculars, not necessarily just student leadership, to build that sort of tech pride and so that everyone knows what other people are up to, not just what SGO is up to, so we can establish more of a connection between them.
Great, same thing to Piu. How do you plan on building community and pride within the class of 2027?
Yeah, this goes back to one of two of my points that I'm running on, which is accessibility and support and connection and transparency. I want to make sure that these senior events are accessible to everyone, so through the senior events, people are able to connect with others, so not only their cliques and not only their groups, but they're able to branch out and find new opportunities within the other people within the student body. I also want to implement the weekly senior newsletters, which would include many opportunities and representation of our SLT classes, because I feel like the representation and the representation throughout our class of people knowing who's in the SLT team, who's a part of the SLT, is very low. So there would be spotlights as to who's on our team and who they can reach out to and how they can make connections, who they can go to if they have any concerns and if they want any advice and everything.
Great, you're gonna stay up. Tell us your most embarrassing moment.
My most embarrassing moment was probably when I thought I was able to sing at the temple and I wasn't able to hit the high note. It was very embarrassing because I was pretty confident, but I think it slipped my mind that I did try to sing that same tune before and I was unable to hit the high note. I'm an alto. That note was not for an alto. And I definitely got to reflect, even though I was confident, even though I was very happy, I was able to surpass that challenge and surpass the embarrassment because I still had people around me to support me and praise me, and even though it was very embarrassing, I still laughed at that moment.
Great. Same thing to Aimee. Tell us your most embarrassing moment.
I'd say my most embarrassing moment was when I jumped on someone thinking it was my friend. So I was in the auditorium and I thought I saw my friend because from behind, he's got that Nike backpack, he has the perm, So I full on ran at him and jumped on him. That was embarrassing.
Okay, what is your thoughts? What did you learn from this experience?
I thought I learned to be more careful next time and be aware of my surroundings, for sure.
That's great. Okay, so now you're going to tell us what have you done, so concrete things, things that have demonstrated your ability to serve as the class vice president?
Okay, so I've been on student leadership class for 3 years now, freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year. In my freshman year, as mentioned, I was a freshman parliamentarian, so I was able to lead the communications committee to send out advertisements, work on my marketing skills, promotion skills. In my sophomore year, I co-led with Ariel the cosplay con committee, so I was able to learn how to host a school-wide event in that sense, because that was the first time I learned how to reach out to all these different peers, all these teachers, all these outside organizations and clubs. So that taught me how to effectively plan and host such big events that involve so many different people to come together. And then junior year, I was the executive of the wellness committee, and this taught me how to effectively plan smaller events, more stress-relieving events. So I think I definitely learned a lot within my 3 years in SGO.
Okay, so Piu, same thing to you. What concrete things have you done to demonstrate your ability to serve as the senior class vice president?
Yeah, I'm going to start off by talking about why I joined student leadership. My freshman year, I was in a part of student leadership, and that is because I didn't know about it, but then I started to see the problems and many of my concerns that did arise during freshman year, so I thought that I would address these concerns by joining student leadership. During student leadership, I was able to help plan events, and I was able to actually this year plan for senior year's prom, masquerade, and so I was able to help Grace actually plan for these events to prepare us for senior year. I've also been able to help out as NHS Alumni Junior Chair, many big scale events for the alumni, so giving back to the community and giving back to Tech Nights. And then outside of school, I was also able to give back to my community by volunteering and then by representing like South Asians within my community and within the school.
Great. So the last thing you're going to incorporate in your closing statement is you talked about vice president being a support role. So how will you support your class cabinet in one specific way and your closing statement?
I'm going to support my class cabinet by communicating and showing transparency. I know that not everything is going to go smoothly and that it's a roller coaster and that there are going to be bumps up and down. And I will make sure that we will be able to communicate any problems and that we'll be able to be transparent of anything that does come up and that we'll be able to find a solution within these things. And I know that everyone has their differences and everyone has their similarities, so being able to adapt and work together is definitely one of my main goals. And going back to my 3 points on accessibility and support, transparency and connection, and lastly, mental health and wellness, I want to make sure that this class develops skills not only that will help them go through this senior, but that they can carry on throughout their lives and that they can actually develop from these skills and actually learn how to become a better person and become successful and achieve their goals.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Aimee, your closing words, and also how will you support your class cabinet?
Well, I also think communication is definitely a big part of being vice president, because when you have miscommunication, things get lost in the process, in the way that you don't really understand what the other person is coming from. So I think definitely communicating your problems with each other and working together and coming together to an agreement is definitely a big part of the role. And then as for my closing statement, as your senior vice president, my goal is to make your senior year as memorable, efficient, and organized as possible. So I'm planning to do this by making sure the senior events such as prom, cruise, senior trip, senior awards, all those kind of things are not only just well planned, but also implement your voice and your opinions into them. And not only do I want to focus on the events, but I also have plans for transparency, for academic resources, for basically just making your senior year less stressful, especially during times of college applications. So, time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all so much. So that was Durdona, Grace, Piu, and Aimee. For president, we have Adriano and Kila, and for vice president, we have Maa'saii, Cassie, and Vanessa. So, first we're going to start with the president. Adriano, you can come up to the front. You're going to say a little bit about yourself, and you're going to answer, how much time are you prepared to dedicate to student government?
Hi, I'm Adriano Rodriguez. I'm a rising junior, also part of LSU. For the amount of time I'm willing to commit to student government, honestly, I can't say, 5 minutes a week or every single day. Like, that's obviously a lot. But I would say as much time as needed to the issues at hand. If it's something that's can get done in a day, let's get it done in a day. If it's something that takes a week, then we're gonna spend a week getting it done, because as long as everybody is heard and every part of the problem is solved, that's the most amount of time that will need.
Great. We're going to ask Kila the same thing. So say a bit about yourself and then explain how much time are you willing to dedicate to student government?
Hi, I'm Kila Moloney. I'm running for junior class president, and I would say I'm willing to dedicate a lot of my time. I've like been in many different like sports and different activities, and I've like dedicated like hours and hours a week to these. And I know if I'm in SGO, like I'm ready to commit as much time as needed and like stay up late if that means, and like work with everybody, just trying to make sure everything's right. But I'd be committed to spend a lot of time.
Great. So the next thing we're going to ask you is, what is your leadership style and how does that affect the way you interact with your peers?
I think my leadership style is being big on communication and community. Like I've always, in my old school, I was in leadership, and it was very few of us, and we really felt like a family, and I think that's how we worked as good as we did. And being on sports teams, the biggest thing is like having a good community and having open communication with each other to make sure like issues are heard. And what was the second part of the question?
And how does this affect how you interact with your peers?
Yeah, I think this makes me work with my peers better, because I know how important it is to build meaningful connections with them to ensure that events go well and just everything goes well and we can work together better.
Great. Same thing to Adriano. What is your leadership style and how does that affect the way you interact with your peers?
I would say my leadership style is more as because my mom would say it a lot when I was younger, whereas we're strong as the person next to us. And honestly, here, making sure everybody that is, I would say, a part of it is equally heard and equally a part of like the situation and can help what's happening, then that would only fix the problem better. And I would say my leadership style is very open. And can you, second part?
Yeah. How does it affect how you interact with your peers?
And it would affect how I interact with my peers, as I'm already a very talkative person, so having the most communication as possible with my peers. And I can't say I'm gonna have the greatest relationship with everybody, but as long as there's some type of relationship and they're heard, I know their ideas, they know mine, and that's the best thing I can ask for.
Great. So as you both mentioned, communication is very important. So have you ever realized you had said or done something that was offensive to a peer? How did you respond to that realization and what was the outcome?
I would say I'm a very talkative person, so I can slip up sometimes. When I notice that it's affecting somebody that's either important to me or somebody that's just passing by, I will say if they address it to me or if I hear from somebody else, it's very different. If it's addressed to me personally, I will say like what the intent was for it. Like obviously knowing the intent, knowing what was going on, the situation, the context, everything matters. If it's something that's like I hear from somebody else, it's more so finding out like how big of an impact they had on that person. If it's something minor, then it's like, oh, like I just want to know like what I did wrong. How can I fix it? If it's something that's major, then it's like, let's have a one-on-one. Like, I want to understand your point of view, you understand me. And if it's, you could misunderstand something. I can misunderstand how it's affecting you, you can misunderstand how it's affecting me. And as long as we talk about it, that's all that matters.
Great. Okay, same thing to Kila. Have you ever realized you had said or done something that was offensive to a peer? How did you respond to that realization and what was the outcome?
I feel like sometimes I'm too straightforward, so I've like come off as mean, but I always like, after like, I usually like think about it after a while, and then like I realize that that was the wrong thing to do, and I always try and apologize to make it right, and like would make my intentions clear. And wait, what was the question?
The other part is, what was the outcome and how did you respond to that realization?
Yeah, so I've only, when I've apologized and they've responded, like, and they've like said how much it hurt, like, I always like reflect on that for a while and like think of how I can change and not make that mistake again.
Great. What is the first thing you would do if you were elected president?
The first thing I would do would be to introduce myself to like the junior class, like to the class of 2028, whether that's like an Instagram post or like if I can have like if there's like something like the dailies that we could do, just so that everyone knows like who is going to be representing them for next year. And I would like start planning events already and like just like map out like basic like dates and ideas of things like I want to get done and when they should get done.
Great. Same thing to Adriana. What is the first thing you would do when elected president?
First thing I would do if I was elected as junior class president, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna call my mom. We're gonna have a time. She gonna tell me, you did what you did. I'm excited. She gonna text the family group chat. We're gonna have a good time. Obviously, to be more serious though, I would make sure that I'm more known throughout the SGO community because I won't lie and say I'm a part of student leadership now, but I do know the teachers. I know Ms. Maa'saii, I know Mr. Velasquez, and I will make sure at least the student part knows who I am, what I stand for, where I'm from, and my voice is known. And then as for my class, because I'm running for class president, I would make sure that not just my friends know who I am and what I'm running for. I'll make sure it's more public. I'm very honest about what I'm doing, and everybody's voice there.
Great. Next thing is, what experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as class president, and yeah, what are your plans?
I would say what has prepared me for being class president is already knowing how it feels to come to tech and feel like singled out. Like coming to tech, or from the first week, obviously I found my group, I found my friends. From the first week of school, I felt like I was the only Spanish kid I ever saw. So it was like, why am I different? And it wasn't like, oh, I see myself, I'm coming from the Bronx, I come from a school with maybe 150 kids. So it's like, I would just make sure that, that's what I can say. Can you finish the first question? Yeah, it's okay.
What experiences or skills have prepared you to serve, and what are your plans?
And then obviously my plans would be to make sure nobody else feels like that in my class and make sure that everybody feels like they're on the same level. It shouldn't be like somebody's better than one another or anybody is better than anybody else. And I want to make sure everybody feels like we're on the same path and we're going to the same end goal.
Great. Okay, same thing to Kila. What experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as class president, and what are your plans?
Some experiences that have prepared me are being in student leadership because I get to like talk to the COSAs and plan events and like work closely alongside with our SGO branch, like our class's SGO branch now. And I've been the captain of a bunch of my sports teams, and I've had to lead them like through like hard times. And I think this has prepared me because I know what it's like to like be a leader and to have to like kind of take charge and initiative, even like when it's more difficult, like when there's like a big decision to be made and you know that's on you. So I've like had a lot of experience with that. And then some of my plans are just like general events, like to bring our whole student body together, like more STEM events, like a science fair or like a breast cancer walkathon, just to like make sure that everyone can feel involved no matter what grade they're in, and make sure they can like advocate for stuff that they like.
Great. The last thing we're going to ask you is your 30 seconds closing statement.
Okay. You should vote for me for junior president because I have a lot of great ideas and I know that I can get them done, and I know how dedicated I would be to them. And if there's any like questions or concerns about anything, just like I'm always there for you. I want to be someone that our grade can always like talk to if they feel like they have nobody. Because with such a big school, it's hard to like find people to talk to sometimes because there's just so many people. So I would like want to be that person for everybody.
Great. Same thing to Adriano. 30 seconds or less. Your closing statement.
My closing statement. I'm gonna keep it short. Obviously vote me for class president, for class 28 president, if you want advocacy for all. And I just want to make sure nobody ever feels singled out.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you both. Next, we're going to have vice president. There are 3 of you, so the way this is going to work is that all 3 of you will answer, and the last person of the 3 will stay up. So then we're going to end up rotating who's last every time. So I'm going to stop. First, we're going to start with Vanessa. So you're going to say a little bit about who you are, and then you're going to say, provide an example of how you handle conflict.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Feng, and I'm ready to be your junior vice president. So, a way to handle conflict?
Yes.
So, I've handled many conflicts before, and disagreement isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can lead to better outcomes, right? However, how to resolve
Yes.
conflicts, first of all, communication is key to everything. If you're not willing to talk, then nothing's going to happen. So, first of all, I would want to communicate with them and come to a resolvement where both of us are happy, like both parties are happy, because that's like the end goal.
Great. Next, we're going to have Cassie answer the same thing. Also say who you are and provide an example of how you handle conflict.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cassie. I'm an engineering science major, and I'm running to be your junior VP. So for me, I think conflict is a very important part of improvement. I see conflict as something that happens in anything. When you're planning an event, it's very important that you communicate. For me, whenever I've been in a conflict, I like to speak to all parties, understand each perspective, and try to make a compromise. I think that a disagreement doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means that you just have to sit down and try to reflect and see what you can do so that all parties are happy.
Great. We're going to ask the 3 of you to keep the same seats and move over down so that I can keep track of it. Same thing, introduce yourself and give us an example of how you handle conflict.
Hi, I'm Maa'saii Modeste. I'm a rising junior in the bioscience major, and I'm running to be your junior vice president. I have 4 siblings, 2 of which have learning deficiencies, and I obviously grew up with conflict, in my house. My older siblings, my younger siblings. It was obviously a big struggle, but for me, what I always knew is that even if I'm a part of the conflict, the biggest important thing is trying to resolve that and understand everybody's perspectives before jumping to conclusions, because having an empathy and curiosity in these type of situations is very important. So being able to understand everyone's perspective and being able to correctly advocate for them, sometimes even advocate for myself, is like a very important part of how I would solve these conflicts and how I would make sure that there's no devastating impact.
Great, thank you. You're going to answer another question. So, are you able to delegate responsibility and provide an example of how you've done that?
Well, I mean, I kind of already said it, so not to repeat myself, not a crazy way. But I feel like the best way that I delegate responsibilities is not even leadership, because even though I'm not a major part of COSA, I still try my best to talk to my class and my peers and make sure that they all have equal opportunities when it comes to that type of stuff. Sometimes make sure I have an equal opportunity when it comes to that type of stuff. And also, for example, in my family, again, if it's time for me to tell my siblings to clean up or get ready for school, brush your teeth sometimes, it's a lot to happen. And despite that, I might tell my younger brother to tell my older brother to do something else, or to help my younger brother clean up. It's a lot that happens, but I feel like making sure everyone gets a kind of part to play is really important in that.
Great. Next, we're going to ask Vanessa the same thing. Are you able to delegate responsibility? Provide an example of how you've done that.
So if I wasn't able to delegate time to this, I wouldn't have applied. Because why would I disappoint the student body by not being able to have time allocated to this? So firstly, I typically live alone. My parents are typically out. My sister's in college, Yumish, she's not here. I have 2 dogs, 1 cat, and a fish. I have to clean the house. I have to take the dogs out. I have to clean the fish. I have to cook. I have to do all of this. It's a lot of time, but I manage it pretty well. I have a planner and everything, Google Calendar. But again, if I didn't have the time, I wouldn't have applied. So ways I have managed it. First of all, in middle school, I technically was our student government, and obviously I had a lot going on at that time, like for example, planning major events, for example, our trip to Six Flags, and many other orientations and stuff, and the same thing in high school. I've had a lot of club roles. Okay.
Yeah, okay, great. Last, we're going to ask Cassie the same thing. So, are you able to delegate responsibility, and how have you done so in the past?
I think I'm great at delegating my tasks in order to make sure that everything is completed. As a member of the student as a member of student government, I realize that there are a lot of responsibilities, and it's very hard to balance my responsibilities as parliamentarian and my schoolwork as well as my personal life. But I think that time management is very important. I like to use spreadsheets and notes, as well as there's this really good app called Notion. I keep track of all my classwork stuff as well as my student leadership responsibilities, and that helps me make sure that I delegate my time accordingly to all my tasks.
Great. So we're going to have you stay up for the next question. What has been your greatest leadership achievement to date?
Oh, I actually love this question. My greatest leadership achievement to date is probably my experience or my involvement in the nonprofit organization, MSLC. I was a member, I spearheaded an accessibility initiative for District 2. So I was a leader of a group of, I think, 5 students from middle schools all around District 2. And our goal was to increase accessibility for students with physical disabilities. And I was able to have a couple meetings with the mayor and the comptroller in order to increase funding for elevators, as well as, we tried branching out to the city. So we attempted to do elevators in train stations, but that was pretty hard. In the end of the day, we were able to build an elevator in my middle school, so I'd say that was my biggest achievement.
Great. Same thing to the side. What has been your greatest leadership achievement to date?
I really like this question because for me, it was during this year, October. I kind of planned, I cooperated with a couple of my friends on like a rally, kind of like a protest for the BSU and just people of color at our school that feel very underrepresented. And due to that, me and several of like my peers were able to get, I think, 2 awards from the New York City Public Advocate and all of the borough presidents. It was at a certain meeting, and unfortunately Mom Donnie couldn't make it, but it was really fun. It was a really fun experience for me, and planning the protest with my peers and making them feel really happy was basically the part that I liked the most, because I was able to represent myself and all those that feel that are marginalized in tech.
Great. Same thing to Vanessa. What has been your greatest leadership achievement to date?
Okay, so during freshman year, I entered with a New York State Senator, and it taught me a lot about civic engagement and talking to people. So prior to this, I used to be extremely introverted. Like, I wouldn't talk to anyone at all. But after my internship, I learned to like canvas with other people and like speak to them, and we had like genuine conversations. And it felt to be very fun. And it just taught me a lot about like civic engagement, talking to other people, leading other people, etc., etc., etc. And also another thing is mental health is a big thing to me. So I've dealt with like mental health problems myself as well as my friends. And in middle school, I helped redesign my whole guidance office to help make it like welcoming to other students. Because prior to that, it was just a blank wall, 3 rooms, chairs, couch, desk. But now there was like lights and like stuff, and it looked really cool. And I know a lot of people were happy with it.
Great. Final thing. 30 seconds or less. Tell us one word that best describes you and give us your closing statement.
Funny, I hope. I'm Vanessa Feng. I'm ready to be your junior vice president. First of all, some events that I'd like to make, similar to Kila, STEM, however, I'm adding arts like STEAM fair, where you get to like present your stuff, as well as a tech market or like thrifting, because thrifting is very popular right now. I like to implement that and work with the sustainability committee. If you want to see more of my ideas, you should go visit my Instagram page.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll have Cassie. Tell us one word that best describes you and your closing statement, 30 seconds or less.
Okay, so I'd say one word to describe me is passionate. And for my closing statement, I'm Cassie. I'm running to be your junior VP. And as VP, I will make sure everyone's voices are heard. And I will try my best to integrate all of your ideas into possible events. And yeah.
last thing, Maa'saii, one word that describes you, closing statement.
I feel like the best word that describes me is ambitious, and my name is Maa'saii Modeste. I'm running to be your junior vice president, and my closing statement, I would say, is you should vote for me because of the fact that I will do everything in my power to advocate for you. And even people that aren't in our class, I've done this before and I'll make sure that it's my duty this time, and I'll go out of my way to do anything I possibly can to do that. Do events, leadership opportunities, anything.
Great, thank you all so much. So that was those running for junior council. That's Sai, Cassie, Vanessa, Adriano, and Kila. So this is our sophomore class council candidates. For president, we have up here Nina, Emma, and Lila. And for vice president, we have Ella, Dimitry, Lori, and Anya. So we're going to start with the presidents. We're going to start with Nina. Like I said before, because there are three of you, it goes for 4-2. We're going to go down, and the last person in the three is going to stay up. So, I think this is a good thing to ask you guys because you're very young. You haven't had the opportunity to really start that many things in Brooklyn Tech. So, what is one leadership role you have outside of Brooklyn Tech, and why did you commit your time to it?
Okay, one leadership role I have outside of Tech is I babysit a lot outside of school. That has taught me a lot about taking care of people and financial responsibility as well as just general responsibility. And you have certain commitments, you have to give things up. Sometimes you might want to go to something with your friends and you can't do that because you have set commitments already. And it also just kind of teaches you to prioritize things and sort of, yeah, just what your priorities are.
Great. So now we're going to go to Emma. Same thing, say like what your name is, and what's an example of a leadership role you've had outside of Tech, or currently have, and why did you commit your time to it?
Hi guys, my name is Emma Hodzic. I'm going to be your sophomore class president. And one extracurricular leadership role outside of the Tech I've taken upon myself is being the vice president of a youth board for a nonprofit called Kamuna. Basically, the initiative of this non-profit is to help the Montenegrin community, which doesn't have a high population here in New York City, and give them the opportunities to engage in workshops that make them feel like a tighter-knit community, and to basically address the language barriers that most face today. Like, for example, as being vice president, we curated language workshops where we teach English to people living in Montenegro who want to pursue something with English and want to move to America, and we teach the American kids here in Montenegro so they can further communicate with the Montenegrin people over in Montenegro. So basically bridging these gaps between our community, and I'm really passionate about that, so that's why I commit my full time to it, and that's why I like to bring to student government here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So same thing to Lila. Yes. So can you give us an example of a leadership role you have outside of Brooklyn Tech and why you decided to commit your time to it?
So hi, my name is Lila Eisen. I'm running for your sophomore president. And one of my leadership roles outside of Brooklyn Tech is that I volunteer my local music non-for-profit. And the reason why I dedicate so much time to this is because, one, music is something I'm super passionate about. I play guitar and I sing, and I also love working with kids, and I love giving other people opportunities to be proficient in things I'm proficient in, because personally, music is something I enjoy so much, and I love that other people can enjoy it through me. And yeah.
Great. So you're the third person to answer this, and you're ready for the next question. Can you unpack your character and describe how it plays into your conflict resolution, how you are as a leader, etc.?
So I think one of my biggest characteristics is that I'm extremely driven. And when I have my mind on something, I try my hardest to fulfill it. And I think that this really can move into leadership and being your sophomore president, because I will do everything in my power to get anything that I can done, and I will listen to others to make sure that what I try to achieve works for everyone. And also, I would say another of my biggest characteristics is that I'm very resilient, so I
thank you. So now we have Nina back.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask her the same thing. Can you unpack your character and describe how it plays into conflict resolution?
Okay, I'm gonna go a little more literal. I was born in Argentina, and so I come from a bilingual household. And I think that learning Spanish for me, or learning Spanish and English, I came here when I was 1. So having diversity and implementing roles of diversity and of community are really, really important to me. Yeah, I think that that's one way that I can bring that. I can bring a lot of advocacy for diversity. And another thing, less literal, I guess, is I am very, very, again, passionate, like others have said. I, like Lila said, have always put my mind to things, and I think that it's important to stand for what you believe in, and I think that that can connect back to my character.
Great. Same thing to Emma. Can you unpack your character and describe how it plays into your leadership and your conflict resolution?
Growing up, I was always taught to be understanding and passionate. My grandma and grandpa moved here to America when they were pretty young. So basically, they've experienced many things, especially with the Bosnian genocide surrounding them. It's hard sometimes to sit down at the dinner table and have them speak to you about these things, because you can tell that some of the experiences that they experienced hold them back in a sort of way. That has really affected me today, so I try to be understanding to everybody, because you never really know what's behind somebody's face. You never really know what they're dealing with. So I try to bring this into my leadership and try to understand everybody's perspective, whether they say it or not. So like trying to get somebody's perspective and integrate it into what we do, and they can stay anonymous, whatever they need to feel. And that's what really makes me passionate, because I want to stand up for the people who can't really stand up for themselves, no matter what's holding them back. So I try to take that perspective into everything that I do. Thank you.
Great. So you're the third person to get answers, so you're going to have another question. So sophomore year, there's a lot of time to do unique events because there aren't as many assigned events to your grade besides culture fair. So what are some of your ideas for your sophomore year?
Great, I love this question. So I'm running for 3 main things. Number 1, school spirit. So I know many of us are really excited about school spirit and bringing it into our school. So I'm bringing field days and pep rallies, and without both, I will focus on one because I don't really have much time. But they would also highlight and celebrate our sports teams. We can have sophomore barbecue. Just ways to bring our school spirit together, because it's really easy to feel isolated. So something to start off the year or end it with feeling more school community and spirit. Next is a leadership conference, which many of us have spoken about and many of us are passionate about. So I believe I'll be able to collaborate with many other members of our student government or student leadership and bring an event that can bring inspiring speakers, more opportunities like volunteering and internships through connecting with others, more networking by inviting other schools to our area. And I've experienced with this outside of school on the SGO board, where I do plan an annual leadership conference. Lastly is mental health support. I want to be able to advocate for all of you guys and bring events that really support your mental health here at Tech. Thank you.
Great. Now we'll go to Lila. What are some ideas that you have for sophomore year?
I also love this question. So my first idea, like Emma said, I also had an idea for a field day around the time of Regents Week, after our hard work, after our tests. So I think that school spirit is something that honestly Tech lacks a bit of. And I want to work hard to create a day where we can have fun with our friends after such hard work throughout the entire year. My second thing that I really want to incorporate into next year in the school would be some sort of showcase of innovation. So I'm someone who, I'm in clubs like DECA, and right now I'm working on my junior achievement project, where basically I get to invent things that I think would be impactful on a social issue. And I think that giving this opportunity for more innovation and creativity to a lot of Tech students is something that a lot of people would be very passionate about. And even in a sense where we could collect funding to even give a winner some money towards their project. So yeah, those are 2 things I would really love to incorporate.
Great, thank you. Same thing to Nina. What are some of your ideas for sophomore year?
Okay, so some of my main ideas stem from a problem that I see prevalent is I don't think that there's enough transparency when choosing majors. I think that a lot of the time when people ask you what major you want to be in, especially for freshmen, you don't really know, and it's always just kind of the same things that you've heard, and it's like, oh, I want to do aerospace because I want to fly a plane, and obviously that's great, and I think that aerospace is an incredible opportunity that we have, but having something like major events where we could have experience with people who are in the majors, have like challenges with them, and do things that relate to the majors before we pick our majors could be really, really beneficial, considering we can't switch our majors once we're in there, and there's 18 majors, so really you have to be able to pick what is the best fit for you. And I think that if we have a bunch of different events where you can experience firsthand what it is, that would be really beneficial.
Great. So you're going to stay up for the next thing? Yeah. So this is going to be the final question, but you're going to have a whole minute because it's like you have to give your closing and everything. So the point of student government is to advocate for the students around you. How will you specifically make sure that every student's voice is heard and connect that to what people should vote for you in your closing words?
Okay, I think that a lot of people have mentioned something that we should implement. I think that there should be a questionnaire. I think that there should be a way to give direct feedback. I don't think that it has to be, like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be from you. I think it can be anonymous. But I think that knowing what people want, and I think that making sure that people don't think that it's like you are doing something wrong, but it's just kind of like what is like going on. Like there might be problems, people might be scared to speak up. That might be beneficial to have sort of that. And I think that you should vote for me because I will bring that to the thing, as well as bringing clear and transparency about majors and belonging and what community means to our school. And if you want to have more information, you should check out my Instagram.
Great, thank you so much. Next we'll have same thing, how will you make sure every student's voice is heard, and your closing words?
Advocacy is one of the main things that a student body president really requires. We need to be able to know how to advocate for student bodies' voices and like opinions, even if they want to be heard or not. I believe that if I collaborated with Ms. Maa'saii, our close advisor, we could have some sessions within our student leadership class that are open to sophomore students, where you guys can come in and talk with us, and we can give you guys updates on what's going on with that within our student leadership class. And I believe also we can put out a timeline of the events that we try to plan for you guys as in the student leadership class or SGO on what we're doing, and really advocate for what you guys want and put on there where you guys can see what we have there and fill out a Google form where you can say, oh, I love this idea, can we incorporate this as well? I believe student advocacy is very important, and we can also have things where you guys anonymously speak or like fill out something as a poll in an anonymous box, and we would take the time to look through every single one of those because your voice matters and counts. Vote Emma Hodzic because I will bring this transparency and this commitment to this role. Thank you so much, and you can also check out my Instagram for more details.
Great, thank you so much. Now we'll go to Lila. Same thing. Yeah, how will you ensure that every student's voice is heard and your closing?
So I understand that a lot of this role is definitely in the building projects and stuff working with that. But on top of that, one of my main things is that I am really interested in current events and issues outside of school that I think students are also passionate about. And I've shown this year at Tech, because earlier this year I did spearhead a protest that a lot of students were advocating for against ICE. And I think that these types of education and opportunities, also with my idea about hosting monthly charity drives and food drives and clothing drives to help issues that students are passionate for, can definitely help advocate for larger majorities, even outside of school. And I think you should really vote for me because I want to be able to represent all 1,500 of you that are part of our sophomore year, and even the people outside of the building. So, of course, go check out my Instagram. It's Lila Eisen for Press, and vote for Lila. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you to the three of you. Now we have our final and largest group, our sophomore vice presidential candidates. We're going to start with Dimitry. So, you're going to say a little bit about who you are, of course, and then you're going to say, if elected, what do you do as a leader promote growth in the students around you?
Hi, my name is Dimitry Delice, and I'm running to be your sophomore vice president. Now, the thing that I'm trying to do to grow the community around me is trying to just work on feedback between you, the people, and SGO. I want to create feedback forums, and I want to hear like what everyone wants, because I don't want like SGO to just be a one-way thing where we create events that you don't have a say in, and yeah, that's pretty much.
Great. Same thing to Lori. Would you like me to repeat?
Yes, please.
Give me a second. Oh, if you're elected, what do you do as a leader to help promote growth in the students around you?
Okay, got it. Hello, my name is Lori Jiang, and I'm your current freshman vice president. And to promote growth for our sophomore class, I would like to, as Dimitry said, run a feedback form as well as spread awareness of all the plans, like transparency, have everybody know what's going on, and then getting feedback from our sophomore class. Just like for freshmen, I've created a feedback form already, getting all their feedbacks, and then telling Ms. Maa'saii about what has happened, and like trying to expand on their ideas and hopefully grow them as a community together.
Great. Next we'll have Ella. Same thing. What will you do in your position to help promote growth in the students around you?
Hi, my name is Ella Hutchinson, and I'm running to be your sophomore vice president. One thing that we've all mentioned is that we want to create feedback, and as much as I want to see feedback about what you want to see change, I also want to see what you liked and what you want us to continue. I think we have a lot of positive things in tech, and I think it's really good to see what do you like at tech, what do you want to see continue, but then also I want to make them mandatory, because I think sometimes your voice feels unheard, but I want to have them be mandatory. That way we have to hear your voice, because I understand how in a school this large it's sometimes easy to feel passed over or not seen, so I want to make sure we can hear your voice fully.
Great, thank you. Now the same thing to Anya. A little bit about who you are and how you plan to promote growth in the students around you.
Hi, I'm Anya, and I'm also running to be your sophomore vice president. And I think kind of similar to everyone else, I really want to focus on like hearing your voice, and I have like kind of a 3-step plan to do this. And it would start with a kind of like form like everyone else was saying, but I think it's really important that it would be anonymous, or at least like as anonymous as like would be possible, because I think a big thing that's like stands in people's way right now of sharing their opinions or sharing like what they think would be helpful is that they're kind of like scared that they'll be judged or things like that. And so I would want to start with that, and then like based on the ideas that we hear and like the top ideas that maybe are like the most possible or that the most amount of people seem to be submitting, I would want to send out like a prioritization form almost to the grade. That would also probably be like required. That's kind of like maybe rank these top like 5 things, and then based on that we would choose like what to prioritize. And the third kind of section here would be on like when we are actually doing it, on transparency through like through like a timeline that everyone can view, and like newsletters.
Great, so you're going to stay up for the next question. So in student government, there's always a balance to be had between really big things, for example, CosplayCon, and doing really small things like getting the girls' bathroom in the basement, for example. So focusing on those big things, what is one large task you really want to follow through on in your year as vice president, as opposed to doing a lot of little things that don't necessarily get a result at the end?
Yeah, okay, so I think that for me in my role as vice president, one kind of like bigger thing that I would want to focus on that I've talked a lot about, like if you've seen my action plan and things like that, is like partnerships with programs outside of tech. Because I feel like especially in sophomore year, based on like people that I've talked to and stuff, a lot of people feel like they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing, or that they don't really know like what they want to do going forward. And I think this is especially like a big thing with like the majors and all of that, and kind of like the presidents were talking about, like with like when you're going into picking your majors, I feel like it'd be really helpful to kind of know like maybe what are you actually interested in. So I'm part of a program outside of school that is called the Knowledge Society, and I've already talked to them, and they said that they would be interested interested in and they work a lot on innovation and entrepreneurship, but they said they would be interested in maybe bringing in guests in different fields to talk to groups of students at Tech who are interested in those fields, and after that people being able to find out kind of what they're interested in and take next steps there.
Great, thank you. Next we'll have Dimitry. So same thing, what is one larger idea that you really want to follow through on making a positive change at the school?
One big idea that I would like to do is creating a class trip, and it's going to be a very hard thing because there's almost 15,000 kids in our grade. But the main reason why I want to do it is because I want to boost school spirit, and I also want the sophomores to have a lot of fun, especially knowing that this is going to be probably one of their hardest years in school, aside from junior year, with a ton of AP classes and a ton of exams. I want them to have fun and be able to enjoy this sophomore year. So that's
great. Next, same thing to Lord. What is one bigger, larger idea for positive change that you want to have for your sophomore year?
One big positive change is about major fair. I think we should have alumni from each different major department to come in and then give a little speech about their experiences in their selected major. Or we could also have current people seniors and juniors from that major to have a little reel to show and express how they truly feel about their major, and is it difficult, how is the workload, their APs, etc. Yeah.
Great. Same thing to Kila. I think you're the last person to answer this question. What is one bigger, larger idea that you have for your sophomore year?
So one big idea is I want to continue culture fair because I saw how well we perceived that was this year, and I volunteered, so I was able to see how really amazing it really was. And another thing I want to do is I want to incorporate a sports fair similar to the club fair. We've already started talking about it in student leadership because I really do want to make this happen and see this happen. And I think it would be really cool because I think sometimes the sports are passed over because we aren't necessarily focused so much on the sports. But I think it would be really interesting to see the sports, see the time commitment, see the coaches, see the team, and mostly just what's involved with the sport, whether you've ever played it before or you haven't. So, yeah.
Great, okay. So now you're going to answer another question. Freshman year, it's often time for councils to kind of get the hang of how the building works and whatnot, and sophomore year is really when they get into gear because they know themselves, they know the experience being here. So tell us how you're different since you first entered Brooklyn Tech and how that difference in you is going to help you be a good vice president.
When I first started at Brooklyn Tech, I came from a really small middle school, so it felt kind of crazy to come to such a large high school, and starting on the council, I wasn't really sure the events we could have and what we could really achieve.
Okay, so your question is, how are you different than when you first started at Brooklyn Tech, and how does that prime you to be a good vice president?
Yeah, okay, so I feel like I've been reflecting on this a lot recently, and I think kind of similar to Ella, I came from a really tiny middle school, and I was kind of part of the leadership committee there, but again, it was really small. There was 3 of us maybe in the class, and then I think coming here, I kind of felt like it would be really scattered, but I did join student leadership in the original form that got sent out, because I was like, okay, well, I do want to find my group of people, and I thought that maybe could be student leadership, and I think it definitely has been a really great group. And I think that for me, when I did first join it, the first few days of leadership were definitely really confusing for me, because it was kind of a lot of the get to know you games and all that, and I wasn't real, and I would see all the other events that the other grades were planning, and I was really scared because I was like, what if we can never do that? And I think that up till now, we've been getting so much more organized and being able to work as a group a lot more. And I think that would make me a good vice president, because I think we've also been able to communicate with each other a lot more, which is something that's really important to actually getting things done.
Great. Next, we're going to go to Dimitry. Same thing. How are you different than when you first entered this school? How will that make you a good vice president?
Okay, so when I first entered this school, I felt very alone and very small. Considering this school has almost 15,000 kids, I felt really I was nothing. It wasn't a good experience. But after being around the school, sometimes making new friends, I've come to realize that I'm not actually as alone as I thought, and there are many people like me and that would really help me with my leadership, because I know what other people are like. I know how it feels to be alone, and I know a lot of kids still do feel like they're alone and that their voice isn't heard. And as a class vice president, I would make it my goal to make sure that their voice is heard.
Great. Lori, same thing. How are you different than when you first came to this school, and how is that going to prep you to be a good VP next year?
Similar to Dimitry, I was really introverted back in the day, so I didn't have much friends, so I was kind of lonely. And as I progressed and went to high school, I made more friends, communicated more, understood more problems with all my friends, and understood how they feel about their lives right now and currently, and their tests, their scores, their homework. I want to make it my goal to be able to answer all of their questions and make sure everybody feels heard and seen. I want to be able to make sure that I listen first before I act upon any ideas that the council might make. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So this is going to be your final thing, 30 seconds. You're going to give us your closing words and also tell us very briefly in a sentence, right? People focus on different things: events, advocacy, talking to administration, yada yada. So what is the main thing you're going to be focused on to representing your grade, and then your closing words?
The main thing I might be focusing on is advocacy, which might tie into transparency, because I want to make sure that everybody's voices is heard, seen, and making sure that everybody has a good time at Tech and everybody understands what they want to do in the future. That's basically two of my goals. So yeah, vote for Lori Jiang for Vice President.
Great. Next, we're going to go to Ella. Same thing, tell us 30 seconds or less what your main priority is going to be and your closing words.
My main priority, as if I become your sophomore vice president, is making events and making a high school experience that you will remember. Recently at the alumni event, I talked to so many people saying that high school was, like Brooklyn Tech specifically, was an incredible time and that they really loved it. And I want to have the class of 2029 have that same thought. Yeah, vote Ella Hutchinson for your sophomore vice president. Yeah.
Great. Next we'll have, yes, Anya. You're going to tell us your closing words and also what's your main focus, main priority.
Yeah. Okay, so I think my main priority is kind of similar to other people. There's like kind of two main things. The first one's going to be on like transparency and also on like making sure everybody kind of has a voice in what we do to create a stronger community. And I think my second biggest thing is going to be on like being able to guide the grade through like the events and like programs that I mentioned. And so overall, like vote for Anya to be your sophomore vice president. And for more information, you can check out my Instagram or ask me any questions.
Great. And our final answer will be from Dimitry. 30 seconds, priority, and closing words.
My biggest priority will be communication between SGO and the people. I want to create events that will not only benefit you, but allow you to have a good time and have a memorable sophomore year. And yeah, that's about it. Vote Dimitry for class vice president, and if you want more information, check out my Insta page.
Great, thank you all. So this has been Dina, Lila, Emma, Anya, Dimitry, Ella, and Lori for Sophomore Council. Overall today we've had our debates for cabinet and all the class councils. You can vote for all of them from May 7th to 11th. And thank you for all for watching this.